I'm Alison, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and this is my story. When I met my ex-husband, I was just out of another marriage, and I was quite vulnerable. What I remember is that he came on very strong right from the beginning. It was a great deal of pressure to move with the relationship really quickly. He proposed after 2 weeks, and I remember right from our first date that he wouldn't take no for an answer. We'd gone out for dinner on our first date, and I didn't want to drink, and he kept insisting that we drink. And the waiter was standing there looking back and forth between us, and finally I gave in and said, fine, I'll have some wine. And I remember at the time feeling really uncomfortable at that moment, but then just ignoring that. So there was a lot of pressure to move very quickly with the relationship and to get married very quickly. And I didn't say yes right away, but I did within a short period of time. Well, certainly looking back now, with what I know now about domestic violence, those signs of not taking no for an answer and for pushing for the relationship to move forward very quickly are definite red flags and things that women should be very aware of. But it was also flattering at the time. You know, I'd just ended a previous marriage and I was lonely and I didn't know where I was going to go with my life, and he was, presenting himself as someone who would take care of everything. I didn't talk to anybody about that. Lots of people, because of who he was. He was a very prominent figure in society and very, very successful. Everybody thought that this was, I remember people saying this was a fairy tale and how wonderful that we had met and so on. And he could be extremely charming, and a lot of people really, really liked him. Not really until we moved in together just before we got married, and that's when the red flags really started to come out. There was, he would get very, very angry if I stood up for myself. He certainly made it very clear that he didn't really want me spending time or very much time with other people. He convinced me to quit my job and to come and work for him at his office. And so there was a lot of attempting to isolate me and create a lot of control in my life. But from the outside, it looked like we had a wonderful life, and from a material aspect anyway. As I said, he was very, very successful. We lived on a beautiful acreage south of Calgary. We both drove luxury automobiles. I had designer clothes. We went on all of these really amazing trips all the time. But there was a big price to pay for all of that. He wouldn't let me go shopping by myself. He had to come with me and choose my clothing. To keep him happy, I needed to be with him all of the time. He didn't want me to be away spending time with other people. Because of the type of work he did, he was very used to being in control at the office and of everyone there sort of jumping when he said jump, and that really carried over into our personal life. As time went on in the marriage, it didn't take very long before there were signs of violence. If he got angry, he would throw things. There was times he'd get very angry and leave the house and take all the keys to all the vehicles, so I'd be trapped at home, and then he'd stay out all night. I remember one morning he was angry at me, and he left to go to work, and I'd been in the ensuite, and I'd been getting ready for the day, and I'd been drinking coffee. I went to take a sip of my coffee, and there was a huge piece of glass from a light bulb in it. When he'd been so angry, he had taken a towel and swiped it at all of the light bulbs that were surrounding the vanity, and so there was glass all over the place. I was standing in glass, and there's a big piece of glass in my coffee. Over time, those situations and incidents became more frequent, but I didn't tell anybody. I kept it to myself, and everybody still thought we had this amazing life and an amazing relationship. Well, the first time that I left, which is when people first knew that there was something seriously wrong, he threw me around the kitchen and threw chairs around the kitchen and threw me around and threatened to kill me and then kill himself. And he had I knew he had some guns, but I thought he only had a couple of guns. And so I left, and I didn't actually just leave. He told me to leave, and so I went to leave, and then he came flying in through the back of the vehicle. It was a Land Rover, and he came flying in and broke the keys off in the ignition, and then told me I could leave if I came into the house to sign some documents. And so he went into the house, and I knew deep down if I went into the house he would kill me. So I slammed the door of the vehicle really hard so he would think I was coming in, and then I ran to the neighbor's acreage, and the RCMP were called, and I went to stay with friends, and he was arrested the following week, and it turned out that he had dozens of guns in his gun safe. But the interesting thing for that people don't understand is that I went back after that, and I went back 3 times, I think. And for people who don't work with domestic violence survivors or victims and don't have any experience of it, they don't understand that, and they don't understand why you would go back. But by the time that you actually leave, you're so beaten down emotionally and psychologically that you really feel you can't survive without that person. And so that's why I went back, and I would go back for a few days, but when right away the relationship had changed. I felt like I just had nothing but contempt for him then. He had lost all his power. So I would leave again, but then he would persuade me to come back, and then by the time I left the last time, I just knew I couldn't go back. And because he'd been arrested, he didn't dare to be physically violent with me anymore. He just became increasingly emotionally violent and abusive, and did things like took away my cell phone because he said it was too expensive. We couldn't afford it anymore, and canceled the cleaning lady so that I'd have to stay home more. And so just more and more of this control and abuse. Yeah, it just escalated, and that's one of the other things I know today is that it doesn't get better. It will continue to get worse, and I also know that women or people that are trying to leave, they are at the most danger when they are leaving. And so what I would say to anybody who is in that situation is not to try and leave when they're there, and to try to make a plan. But at that point when you're leaving, that's when they know they're at risk of losing control, and that's when you're in the most danger. Each time that I left, I just left in a hurry. And the last time, the RCMP, of course, knew about what was going on and were pleading with me to leave. And so they took and hid me in a motel outside of the south of Calgary and kept me there for a couple of days. And then I went into Sheriff King for a few days, and because they felt I was at such high risk, I was bumped to the top of the the list at Discovery House, and so after about a week from the time I left, I went to live at Discovery House for just about 9 months. The time that I spent at Discovery House saved my life, but at first it was hard to be there. You've left your family, you've left your home, you've left your friends, your community, and certainly in my situation, a very luxurious lifestyle, and I felt like I had lost everything, my identity, everything. But the staff at Discovery House were unbelievable. The help I got there, I couldn't sleep most of the time. I had dreadful insomnia, and I would go downstairs sometimes to, in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, to talk to one of the staff people, and I could say anything and talk about anything, and they were so supportive. And over time, it really became my safe place, and I truly believe that being there saved my life. And once I was in there, I also knew that I couldn't do this again. I couldn't go back and do this again. That I had done this, and I wasn't going to go back. It took a lot of years to recover. I had recurring dreams for many years afterwards, where I would dream that I was walking around our old house, and he had gotten remarried within the year, and I would dream that I'd be walking around the house trying to see what they were doing, and it was just really strange dreams. And when I left, I was probably about 50 pounds lighter than I am now, and I walked around with my arms crossed in front of me and sort of bent over in this really protective stance, and I was really frail. And it took a number of years, I would say 8 or 9, 10 years before, I really didn't think about it on a daily or weekly basis. And today I have a wonderful life. I have a great life and a great partner, a wonderful career, and I honestly don't think about it that much anymore. For a long time, I think part of the healing was to talk about it a lot, but I really don't anymore. It's behind me, and there is hope for people who are in that situation, that your life will or can get so much better, and you don't have to live like that.